Hello everyone, welcome to this video about Groovin High. And today I am with my art stop, just to change it up. So I'm continuing with my series about how to play on songs that are perceived to have difficult changes or have some peculiar chords. And Groovin High is one of those songs, even though it is actually not that complicated once you understand how the harmony really works in that song. And the interesting thing about this song is that you can really approach it in two different ways, which is interesting because now you can choose on the fly which approach you want to take and sound very different. So let's start from the top. The song is in E flat and you can see the chart right here. And the interesting part starts immediately in bar 3 and 4 with the A minor 7 and the D7. So let's take a look at my guitar neck and I'll walk you through what's happening there. So the first chord E flat, right? Then we get this A minor 7, D7. And so the interesting thing here is that you could actually approach this, specifically this part, in two different ways. You could look at the chords themselves and have more kind of a chord scale approach and try to find scales that work on these chords. And I will talk a little bit about how I would approach that. But first, let's talk about what's really happening here harmonically. So there are some other videos on my channel which I will link, and I talk about the one diminished, right? So if we're in E flat, that's E flat diminished. Or you could call it a sharp 4 diminished. It's the same chord, then it would be F sharp diminished, right? And this chord resolves very nicely back to the 1 chord. So if you have E flat and you play this 1 diminished, it resolves right back. Or you could play F sharp diminished and resolve it to the 1 chord with the 3rd in the bass. So to E flat with the 3rd in the bass, right here. So you have 1, you have E flat, and then you go to F sharp diminished, back to E flat with. So it's that sound. That is actually what's happening here. And I said in other videos, whenever you see this 1 diminished chord, or any of the inversions, like what I said in Donna Lee, there's this B diminished. Now we're in A flat, so let's transpose that to E flat. Let's say we have F sharp diminished. Then if you want to solo over that in an easy way, you could just play D7 altered, right? So it's F sharp diminished. You play your D7 altered lines. Now, so in this composition, Groovin High, they didn't, the composer, I think it's Gillespie, didn't write E flat diminished. Instead, he wrote down the substitutions. This is what often happens in songs, even though the harmony is not very difficult. they write down substitutions. So what happened here is that instead of using E flat diminished, Dizzy Gillespie wrote down A minor 7 D7. And maybe you know that this song is based on a old standard called Whispering. And I'm not sure about the original chords, but I could imagine that the original chord is actually E flat diminished, because the theme of Whispering is right, it could be diminished. Of course, it doesn't really fit with the theme of Groovin High. Well, a little bit, but it is really based on this A minor chord. But in your solo, because we're playing harmony that moves forward, right? We're resolving right back to E flat, and because the function of this D7 chord is the same as the function of this one diminished chord, we can just play all of our lines that we normally play. So that includes diminished arpeggios. That includes lines for D7 altered. And that would include a diminished scale. Whatever you want, it would all work. The benefit of approaching it like that is that you have an easy resolution. Because what you could do, whenever you have this diminished chord resolving to the one, you could just play lines for D7, in this case D7 altered, to G minor. Because G minor in the key of E flat is just a substitute for the one chord. Now you gotta be careful, you cannot really play G minor 9 or something, right? You want to have a pure G minor sound, almost like a triad. And then of course, what you could do is you could make a resolution to G minor, and as soon as you've hit the G minor chord, you just switch back to an E flat major 7, right? So I'm playing D7 altered, so I'm playing diminished from the F sharp. Now I'm playing a G minor triad, and now I'm switching to E flat major 7. Or another example, maybe play something like so I'm playing D7 altered by thinking E flat minor. Oh, it's E flat minor, is it? And hitting the G, and now once I hit the G, I just think E flat major 7. Let me make a loop of the first 4 bars, and I'll put the tempo like 75%. So what you get is 2 bars of E flat, and then 1 bar A minor 7, 1 bar D7, like the first 4 bars of the chart. And I'll just be playing 2 bars of E flat, and then I'll play 2 bars D7 altered. Mostly probably F sharp diminished arpeggios. And other altered sounds, like you could call it the Phrygian dominant scale, or you could call it the altered scale. Although I really don't think like that. I think more in phrases that I know. And if you want to know those phrases, there's this video called Gypsy Jazz Loops, which I will link. And all those phrases, or most of the phrases I'm going to play, are probably in that video. And I will resolve that altered sound to G minor in my head. But as soon as I'm on the G minor, I'm back on the E flat. So it's a loop of 4 bars. So it sounds like this: E flat, A minor, and it loops back to E flat. So, for instance, I was doing this kind of things with the sharp 9, like on D7 altered. I was playing some A flat 7 even, resolving to G minor. I was playing this triplet thing, which extended over the bar, so I was still on this sound, even though the E flat was already being played by the backing track. But you can do that, right? Because it is a sound that resolves, so you can be too early and too late. And if you want to know those triplet licks, I have a video called 5 Why Gypsy Picking Technique is the Most Powerful Technique. I will link that too, and I think this phrase is in there. So now, what's the other option? If you want to look at more like a chord scale theory guy, and you don't really care about resolutions per se, you just want to have a nice sound on the chord. So what you could do, of course, is just really play A minor. And then probably if you're a chord scale theory person, you would say, I'm gonna play A minor melodic, right? So that you have this sound with the, where you have this sound with the G sharp, which you could walk down to the F sharp, stuff like that. So you could do that. The way I would do it, if I want to sound like that, is I would play some C major 7 on the A minor. And I would play some A minor 6 on the D7. Or A minor major 7. You get this that sound. That kind of sound, and I would do that, and then I wouldn't really resolve to E flat. I would just play that sound, and then the E flat hits, and I just switch back to E flat. So it might kind of sound as resolving, but I'm not really resolving. I'm just playing two different sounds, and that sounds like this. And then of course you can combine them. So the last time I was playing C major 7, and then I was playing D7 altered. So you can either play D7 altered immediately, or you play no altered sound, you just play A minor 6, A minor major 7, or you play A minor to D7 altered. So let me do that a little bit in the real tempo, so you can better hear it, the resolutions. And I will switch between all those options. So as you can hear, if I don't do the resolution thing, it still sounds nice, but do realize that you're not really playing the harmony. Now you're just playing two separate sounds. And I think if you play like that all the time, you kind of miss the point of what the harmony is doing, which is this resolution from E flat diminished back to E flat. Nothing wrong with it, but just realize that if you stick to chord scales in this case and don't choose, for instance, for an altered scale, then you're not really playing, outlining the harmony. Now, if you would choose to play an altered scale, right, you would say, okay, I'm gonna play an altered scale on D7 altered. Then you are playing a sound that resolves, but then you should be able to resolve it to E flat minor, E flat major in such a way that it's a real resolution. If you just switch from the D7 altered scale to, I don't know, E flat major scale, you might run the risk of not really resolving that sound. And the resolution comes from, mostly from playing an arpeggio-like figure, right? Stuff like, maybe you play E flat minor. Now I'm resolving to a strong chord tone of E flat. Okay, so now we continue. The second 4 bars are very similar. 2 bars E flat and another 2/5, but now it's a 2/5 to F. G minor 7, C7. Now this is a real 2/5 resolving to an F chord, right? And I told you already, I always think about harmony as a string of 1 and 5 chords. So that it starts from the beginning. The first chord is a 1 chord, and then there's this 5 chord, D7, resolving back to the 1 chord, or resolving in my mind to G minor, 5-1 again. Then we have a 2/5 to F, and it doesn't resolve to F major, it resolves to F7. It doesn't matter. I play something that resolves to F, and as soon as I hit the F, I'm switching to an F7 sound. Now on the F7, I can do a couple of things. I could play a diminished sound, like A diminished. That would be a really gypsy jazz thing to do. Or I could play C minor, right? Because every time I see a dominant, I could also play the minor chord that goes with it. So if it's F7, I could play C minor. C minor is a nice sound. Right, that's E flat major 7, but when I think C minor, I also think E flat major 7. That's the same thing for me. So F7 could be for me C minor, could be E flat major 7, could be A diminished, and it could be that sound, which would be G augmented. And there's no real rule for it. It's just that it would fit on any dominant chord. Those are the sounds. But especially if the dominant chord is on the 2 of the key, in this case F7, right? It's in E flat. Then this augmented sound is really nice. And the way I think about it is, if I have this F7 voicing there, then if I change the voicing to this voicing, I have my starting note for this augmented triad, and that's the fingering that Stochel uses. He would often play something like, he would play maybe, so he would play a diminished arpeggio up, and then this augmented triad down. Or you could play something like that, a C minor to this augmented thing. Or you could play E flat major 7 up, and then land on that note. Okay, so let me loop the second 4 bars. G minor, C7, F7, 2/5 back, E flat, and loop. C7. Pretty easy to do, especially if you have practiced lots of 5-1 movement. And again, all those phrases that I'm playing, most of them are in this video called Gypsy Jazz Loops. Okay, so now we get this part with G minor, F sharp 7 minor, F minor. And this is the same, you can do the same approach, right? You could look at what is happening harmonically and play the functions, or you could look at it as a chord scale theory person. So first, harmonically, what's happening is G minor, which does a substitute for the 1. So it's E flat, you can just play E flat. And then it's this, right? What's that? Is that a real function? No, it's not a function. It's just a chromatic passing chord from G minor to F7. Now, which chord do we know? If G minor is the same as E flat, which chord do we know in between E flat and F minor 7, which is in the key? Well, that would be C7. So that F sharp 7 minor, F sharp minor 7 is just a substitute for C7 altered. So you could just be playing 1, 6 dominant, F minor, B flat. So again, for me it's a string of 1 and 5 chords, right? You have the 1 chord. Now we have a 5 chord to F minor. And then I have another 5 chords to the 1 chord. So the complete changes for me, for the A part, simplified, would be like this. E flat, D altered, E flat, C altered, C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat, C7, F minor, B flat. Right, that's what I'm thinking. D7 altered, E flat, C7 altered, F7, B7, flat 7, C7, D7 altered, E flat, let's talk about that A flat minor chord, right? It's a 4 minor chord. Maybe you already know what I'm going to say. That's just a substitution for a 5 altered chord, right? So this A flat minor is just B flat 7 altered. And if you don't really understand how that works, just think of a minor chord, and now put a B flat in the bass. Let's play like this. Alright, A flat minor, and I'll put the B flat in the bass. What do I get? I get B flat 7 sus flat 9, which is just the same as, or it's just a retardation chord for B flat 7 altered. So I can interchange those chords, they're so close. So whenever there's A flat minor, I can just play my lines for B flat 7 altered. One of those lines would be actually to play A flat minor 6. So that's an option for sure. I could play A flat minor, I could play D flat 7, which is another substitution, or I could play some really B flat 7 altered stuff. As long as I resolve it. So let me play, to end this video, a couple of courses in the real tempo, and I'll try to vary my approach. Maybe the first chorus I'm gonna play very functional, and the second chorus I'm gonna play very chord scale type. Even though I'm not really a chord scale guy, or not at all. I don't know any scales, but I do know what it would sound like if I would use one of those scales by playing an appropriate phrase that is in the same kind of color. So here we go. I made one mistake one time. We went to A flat minor, and I thought we were the first time. But as long as your lines are strong and you know how to resolve your lines, you can see that if you know lots of strong 5/1 lines, you could play over most songs, even songs that seem to have weird changes like this one, right? It's all 1/5 chords: E flat, D7 to G minor, right? C7 to F minor, B flat to E flat. It's basically that. It's not difficult. Of course, what is difficult is to have good lines. But again, if you're searching for good lines, I have a channel filled with videos with good lines, and I will link a bunch of them under this video. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel. That really helps me out. I just reached 12,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And let's go for the 20,000. And if you want to do a little bit more, you can always check out my Patreon. And otherwise, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!